Okay. Good morning, Mike. I'm Barry O'Connell. It's a pleasure to have you on our podcast together this morning.
Good morning, Mary, and obviously I'm Mike Sponder, and we're two bearded men, so that's what life's about sometimes.
Well, since we're both mature men, maybe we could talk about the younger folks today.
Okay, good
I was
thinking.
I was thinking in particular of the Democratic senatorial candidate from Maine, Graham Plattner, who is
Yeah.
stirring up a great deal of discussion in
Oh
Democratic
heavens!
circles.
Yes, matter of fact, we had a 1 or 2 minute preface, and it just came to me, and I'd like to give you 2 points as a lead-in.
Okay.
First, let's just say it's not that I'm a contrarian because basically I come to my ideas before other people do. So it's not against, but two things stand out. First, if Plattner was running as a Republican, every Democrat on record, and dare I say you as well, would be up in arms over this, uh, call it Nazi or whatever. So, in a sense, is spare me this. Chuck Schumer didn't. I can't say this or that. Every Democrat would be on record as being against Platinum. So that's number one.
Okay.
Second, and this is an interesting point, which we might explore. Did you ever uh, see, read, watch a play called The Devil and Daniel Webster?
I've heard of it. I don't remember it
Well,
specifically.
basically, its premise, and by the way, it's on YouTube, uh, and it's an old black and white uh, morality play. Daniel Webster was from Maine, by the way, the
Mhm.
great orator, senator, uh, whatever. He was a biggie in those days, and it starts off with basically a hard scrapple farmer from Maine, Jabez Stone, who literally was not making it with all the rocks in Maine and with all the everything. And basically, he signed a a a contract with the devil for 10 years of prosperity beyond his dreams.
Mhm.
And it worked. He became Jabez Stone, the successful farmer, money lender, you name it. He was a biggie. And 10 years later, the devil came to pick up his soul. And that's when his soul, that's when and Jabez Stone then went to Daniel Webster to rescue him.
Okay.
And it became him, and it was, and so they had a trial, and the trial was in front of a jury of uh, peers, but the devil picked the jury. Uh, it was, and I'll just give a number of them. Uh, 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 Blackbeard, uh, Genghis Khan, uh, uh, Benjamin, whatever, the traitor, the jury of his peers, and they had a trial, and
Okay.
Daniel Webster got Jabez off, and all of these people who were lay down there and brought up by the devil voted against the devil. So who knows? Maybe, maybe Platinum will come through. But it's a fascinating insight into today's thoughts. Uh, Selling your soul for quote the greater good, or what Jabez considered what he needed to move forward in life. And he did. He got 10 years of great times. Of course,
Well,
later on, he then turned moral and he gave back all of the money he got and became a good neighbor and no longer this money lender grubber. After he learned his lesson, now that Daniel Webster uh, found him, got him off the thing. Anyway, so Maine, how's that?
sounds good. You know, one of the things I've been thinking about is Plattner draws following that is not typically in our Democratic wheelhouse anymore. Um,
I'll agree. Just
okay,
not even for argument, I'll agree.
okay.
And
And so when we take a look at Maine, um, he's pulling the progressive vote out of Portland and out of the college towns, um, which is normal. That's Bernie Sanders supported him. He's getting the
and
progressives who,
Elizabeth Warren and because they were early endorsers of them. Yes,
yeah, okay. And then you take a look. He also pulled extremely strongly in the Route 2 corridor. Basically, you know, the state highway from Vermont to Canada that cuts through all the old mill towns.
I'm
And
familiar with Maine, for personally
okay,
familiar with it. And so, yes, I know the corridor, and those are the people that were against the expansion of the call it the Canadian pipeline being cables to bring down hydroelectric power
mhm,
uh, to Maine, even though they're all because of the environmental damage. So basically, Maine pays the highest electricity bills probably in the country.
that probably plays into this somewhat as well. So we're getting now. I've got you know, the political scientists, the smart people talk about low trust voters, and the lowest low trust voters of all are white Christian males, non-college, 18 to 29. They are the voters who are feel economically oppressed. I refer to them as the Call of Duty set. They're the young guys playing video games. They're not going to college. They're up in Maine. They're looking at their environment and they're realizing in a world where they're offering, you know, muscular labor, it's no longer a muscular labor world. You can't work 30 years at the mill and get a pension and retire comfortably. Those days are gone. And they're looking at this and they're not typically Republican. There's still a strong flavor of the Democratic Party, but they voted for Barack Obama. They walked away and voted for Trump um, two times. And their lowest turnout when we're looking at these voting block, we've got they rejected Hillary Clinton and they rejected
Yeah.
Vice President
Let's
Harris.
extrapolate them nationwide as well. Okay.
Yes,
I,
please.
I, it doesn't matter what I agree in a sense of the more voters, assuming you are a dyed in the wool Democrat, I, I, I can't claim to be a non-Democrat, but I am a Democrat in a sense is I live in Maryland, and therefore my vote doesn't count. Although, given if my vote did count, I would probably vote Democratic anyway. So, in a sense, is yes, but that profile you're talking about is a profile that there's nothing wrong with a our party. I use the word our party uh, going for, and is fine. You have it, and we had this mini discussion. So yes, the more people that vote for your side, our side, the better. I have seven granddaughters. Will all seven of them then say, well, if you're going after them, you're going to lose me? That's a separate factor. but I'll take that. My 7 granddaughters will not move. So
Okay.
you're saying adding 2. I agree with you. So there is no dispute, but there is one major dispute that we had this mini discussion, and I don't dispute the image of a Graham Plattner, which of
Mhm.
course is the not Paul, Paul Bunyan didn't come from Maine, but wearing the LL Bean shirts, and the old story of
Sure.
maybe not at college, but working the mills and everything else. That's fine. People are people, just as if 300-pound woman or a 12-pound man, votes are votes. So where you get them, my dispute is not a Graham Plattner, but the Graham Plattner. In other words, yes. Do I believe that Bernie Sanders' economic uh, program makes sense? No. But again, that's personal. I don't mean that because socialism has never worked except at the point of a gun,
Mhm.
or if everybody's the same ethnicity. That doesn't work when they're not. So, but that's a separate factor. But why the Graham plan? It's like saying, well, uh, yes, it's so important to beat Donald Trump that I'll vote. I'll put up and vote for a axe murderer who murdered 40 million people. And by the way, this is hyperbole. I'm not disputing that. And that's where we part because it's the Graham Cotton. And I have an expression, as you probably some expressions are accurate, and if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Now, if you're asking me, is he a duck 100%? No. Oh, but in my opinion, 99%. Therefore, it's the Graham Plattner as the individual. And anybody who's lived as long as he's lived with remember, Adolf Hitler, forget about, I'm Jewish, okay? But Adolf Hitler murdered at least 5 times as many others than call it the Holocaust Jews.
Okay.
He decimated Belgium, Denmark, Norway, France. He was out to kill people. Went into Russia. There was 20 million Russians killed. This was a megalomaniac, and you got to know it. So it's the Graham Plattner. That's where we all now. You say greater good. Well, the greater good, we got to beat Donald Trump. Okay, then you have to then say, I'm willing to take Hitler, and I heard probably I'm willing to have Hitler because it's more important to beat Donald Trump than not to have Hitler. And so I'll accept Hitler. And I'm saying, go get a Graham There's in Maine. There's dozens of them. Now, yes, politics being if somebody announces this, but if you nip it in the bud earlier and in reverse, then admit what Jeffords and the rest of them saying, I don't really care if he is an axe murderer who's killed 20 million people. It's more important to beat Donald Trump because every single one of them, I'm not saying you, we don't know each other that well, would automatically respond if Plattner was running as a Republican. He is unacceptable. But if you want to balance greater good, okay. And that's where we disagree. Not on because would I be happier with some other kind of Democrat than a Plattner? Personally, yes, but that doesn't matter. I voted. I voted for Luce a lot of times, but not the individual, and that's where we might part.
Now,
And
Mike, I would have to throw out the idea that there's a difference in how people perceive Graham Plattner.
right,
And I fully admit and I respect my dear Jewish friends. And we both got some of the same friends, and we know they've got their hands in the air and they're all upset. He's got a Nazi tattoo. Well, now the problem is that when we go to the to the young folks, they don't see a Nazi tattoo.
right.
They
I didn't argue about what.
they
That's the
they
real
see a
problem.
smiling skull tattoo, and
But
it's
I'm talking to you now, and I'm saying you are saying I am not convinced because unless I'm convinced 100%, he's not who a Nazi or this mass murderer. And I'm saying selling your soul. Not nine is 99% not enough or nine. So that's my point. It isn't that I say, oh, I guarantee he is that. You're going in reverse and ignoring and saying, yeah, I know 99% he is, but those people don't think so. Shame on those people because those people should be given the opportunity for a Graham Plattner. Now, we might be not be able to get that done. I'm not disputing that. But so my point is it's the, and I fault, quote, the Democrats in the sense is, I mean, go out and get another person who has, uh, he's, I think, what is he, an oyster farmer?
yes,
I've never picked oysters in Maine. I've walked along, but I've eaten oysters in
sure,
Maine. Does he wear an LL Bean shirt?
probably.
I don't think he's ever done anything other than that because it appears that uh, he's sort of a fake in the sense of his background. But that's a separate fact. People lie about their backgrounds. I won't get into you and me, so I'm not disputing. But when you're presented with a 41-year-old man, by the way, who is and I'll give this the sex thing. My 7 granddaughters will have stomach cramps if they were in Maine. About the Graham Plattner, not a Graham Plattner. Remember. So when you add up all of the factors, that's where we now. Then you say, well, okay, everything you say is accurate, and it's true, but it's more important that we beat Donald Trump. Okay, that's
I'm
a
not saying that,
decision.
Mike. Now, Mike, I've got to tell you, okay, and I understand your point, okay. But what it really comes down to is that he has done some things. He has done many things. The sexting, the his many relationships with women, where some of the women do not remember him kindly.
Okay.
He was, you know, he spent 8 years in the service, 4 years as a Marine, 3 times in combat, then joined the Maryland National Guard and went back into combat again. So he's got 4 combat tours.
Yeah, and he
That's
said
not the
some nasty
typical guy.
things about his military people. Again, okay, continue. I'm sorry, I
But
interrupted you.
but in Croatia, during leave from combat fighting, he gets a tattoo. Okay. He got a smiling skull tattoo. Okay.
Oh, come on,
My
that's
young
where we.
friends, no, wait, no, let me tell you what I'm hearing from the two sides, because I will admit that there's a difference of
No, I'm
opinion.
talking to you. We're not talking about the two sides. It is he or isn't he? And you're saying, oh, there is not conclusive proof. And I won't argue with you about there is no conclusive proof. I'm just saying if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's a duck. Now, if you're saying if there are 100 of those ducks going, those little things quacking along, only 99 of them are ducks and one is not a duck. I'm, you could be right. He might not be, but
Well, here's the thing.
that's the
We
wrong
left
way
it
to
up.
go about it.
We left it up to the people of Maine, the
No,
people who
no,
know.
no, 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 no.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
immaterial.
That's what
The
this comes
people of
down to.
Maine are not you and me. We're not talking because when you say we left it up to the people of Maine, we're in effect saying, yes, he's a Nazi, but if the people of
Oh, we're
Maine
not
want a Nazi,
saying that.
okay.
You're not saying that. And only a small group of people are really saying he's a Nazi. Most
Oh,
of the people are saying he was an idiot Marine.
everybody, including the
Everybody in
people that
your
are voting
circle,
for him.
Mike. I
What?
don't accept that.
Oh, no, 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 no. Jeffords says it up here. Schumer says it up here. The people in Maine up here say it. Now, I'm not saying they're going to get up there and go like this because I said that Chuck Schumer and Jeffords and everybody we both know would be up in arms if Jeffords if Plattner was running as a Republican. So yes, all I'm saying is why the Graham Plattner as opposed to a great because you
The
described
difference
the
is
four
he ran.
walls. What?
He ran. He
Oh,
ran.
I am
He won.
fine.
And
Then
there's no
say
proof that he knew it was a Nazi
then
taxi.
say for the then you say the greater good of the country is better to have him because he ran than to stand up on a 2 feet. And by the way, I sometimes just say that I think we've had this discussion when I asked you to describe what a politician is. By the way, give me your definition of a politician.
Politician is a purveyor of kindness and light who goes out seeking the best for people. Come on, Mike.
Good.
How am I supposed to answer that?
You're the other you're the 99% to go like this. My definition of a politician is somebody that raises their right hand.
Yes.
Therefore, I accept that raising the right hand means you're in charge of the world. Uh, 300 votes in Florida, and George Bush went. I'm sorry, I have to go this way, and if 300 votes, and this, we'll might discuss that someday, went that way, then Al Gore would have been, and they would have had, basically a flat Earth society was running the country, and I'm just using the again,
Sure.
or if Gore had won a square Earth society, because that is our political system. It's 100-0. So I understand that.
Oh,
But
but
so
I
if you're
come at it.
saying 100-0 is more important than standing up and saying, and by the way, I can't even say I wouldn't vote for him against Susan Collins. I'm not trying to
Now,
argue that.
okay, but I think I come at it from a perspective that I'm a simple man who happens to be Lutheran. And we Lutherans have a particular way of looking at the Bible that very few other people subscribe to. What we believe is thou shalt not steal. And and the teachings of our church is that if we say something about a person that we do not know to be absolutely true, we are stealing their good name.
That's where we did. You need 100% approval. Therefore, when you're at 99%, you say that's not enough. My opinion is every single person who is saying, I'm going to vote for Plattner is at 99%. Okay, that's a decision. But don't tell me you don't. Well, I should, poor choice of words because you're telling me. So, in a sense, is we don't disagree. Where we do disagree was on am I willing to risk? Now, then if you say, am I willing to risk, then you bring in the fact is which is worse, having call it, and I don't think this is accurate, but let me having Donald Trump or Graham Plattner. That's different. That's a separate factor. Because let me ask you a question: what if Plattner wasn't a cusp senator, in a sense that uh, if he wins in
Mhm.
Maine, the Democrats will have 45%, 45 senators, and Republicans will have 55. Just numbers, by the way. So therefore, he's there, and Donald Trump is still there, and the Republicans still there. Would would it change your mind, or is it, well, he might be the 51st person? Therefore, I'm willing to put aside everything because he's not 100. It's not 100% sure. He's a 41-year-old man who's done and said things that your stomach would curl.
That he's repented for. And you're
What?
saying he repented for those things.
I don't
He's
care about
talked
it.
about the, you
That's
don't
your
care that
opinion.
he repented, and that's the
I don't
difference.
believe a word
I
he
care.
says.
I
You
care
care?
that he
You
repented.
believe he repented? Let me
Yes.
put it this way: you might be the one person all by themselves on the top of the mountain who believes it, and
I
I
don't
give you
think
all
he's
the credit in the
now look,
world.
I have a little bit of experience with the Marine Corps because through my various adventures, I like to vacation in war zones. So I spent a lot of time in Afghanistan during the war, and I used to run into the Marines regularly. I used to. Uh, there's not a lot of churches in Afghanistan, so if I wanted to go to Sunday service, I had to go to one of the NATO bases, and I'd run into a mixture of American, German, Canadian, and
Sure,
so
yeah.
on soldiers, and a lot of U.S. Marines. One of the things, and no insult to my Marine friends, okay, but if you take a look at the test scores over the last 20 years, the Marine Corps officer test scores have been decreasing every year for the last 20 years in their own tests.
Okay. By the way, one of my mini worlds was when I was the uh, 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 director of the Office of Innovations at the Office of Naval Research and
Okay.
the vice chief uh, of uh, operations, or was a Marine, always a Marine general, and the chief of naval research was the always a 2 or 3 star admiral. So yes, I spent a fair amount of time as an outsider uh, at Camp Lejeune, and so I used to see them. But he was a Marine a number of years ago, and
True.
it's still there. So I'm not arguing about it, because let me tell you something. When I was in there and you used test scores, I was watching. They want, by the way, I was 70 years old at the time. So they want is when they wanted to stick 70 pounds on my shoulders, which is the normal backpack that a
Mhm.
Marine has to carry to go into combat. And they wanted to, and then of course they wanted to give me a rifle to, because they had this great marksman's club there, and I
Mhm.
was the visiting, dignitary. I backed off. So I admire both the dedication and the activity, and literally call it patriotism. But this was 10 years ago with him. This was not yesterday. He's had all of this time, and all of this time is, remember, it is not a Graham Plattner, it is the Graham Plattner I am talking about. And there's where you're saying, uh, to forgive is divine. I'll forgive him. I just don't want him to run. See, I have no problem forgiving him. But why the Graham Plattner? You, you- you're painting an image, and I'm painting a person. That's the difference between the two of us. Not in a sense of ultimate goal. If you're saying the only way to beat Donald Trump is with the Graham Plattner, that's a morality play. That's
Well,
your
I would beating Trump is not my biggest concern.
not you, but I'm talking about the voters
Many
in
other people,
Maine.
many other people, and I would suggest that we don't do well with white Christian working class, and he is definitely a product of that white Christian working
Uh,
class. Yes, he's
you,
been to college, but he that's his niche in this whole thing. Um, he pulls with those people. Maybe what we need to do, and we're getting close to our time, so we're going to
well,
have to wrap
you-
this up shortly. Um,
I'll give you a quick analogy on what you're saying.
Real
Do you know
quick,
what
because we are running out.
spring steel is?
Okay, I know what springs and steel is.
No,
Yes,
you build a memory into something. And the
yes.
only so basically what you're saying is he is spring steel and there is no other thing because if we pull, we're destroying the concept of spring steel. And I'm saying he is not spring steel. He is Graham Plattner, the individual. That's where we part. We don't part because I don't. Does it matter whether I agree with you that uh, we're short of white male Christians? It's it doesn't matter because that's just a question of hey. But when you tell me that my thoughts are that unless it's 100% certain he's acceptable, I'm saying my morality says no. Now, if I was at 51-49 on yay, nay, yeah, well, you know what the hell, then maybe, but I'm not 51-40, and I don't believe anybody is on 51-49. Bernie Sanders believes what I'm saying about him. Elizabeth Warren believes what I'm saying about him. They all believe it. But to them, it's more important to win to beat Donald Trump. That's okay.
I
That's
would suggest, and my position is a little bit different. I don't want you to state my position for me. My position, Mike, is that I'm saying that I live in a world where I accept that young guys who join the Marine Corps before college, we're not talking the officer class, we're talking about
of
enlisted
course,
man Marines
yes.
joining the Marine Corps, have a high likelihood of doing something stupid. Um,
Of course, but he's
you know that fellow
41
who
years old. It's
that
not
fellow, yeah, but we're talking about when he was
and
20. And so we're
but he
talking about
but he had
2000,
20 years in between to
and
do
he's
something about it.
apologized all through the 20 years
Oh,
and
come on
atoned for,
now.
yes, and you
No, he
won't accept
apologized
any of
after
the
he was caught.
atonement.
He
No,
apologized after he was
he
caught.
admitted everything he's done. He's atoned for it, and he's not the
No, no,
same man.
no,
And
no,
you're
no, no,
basically
no.
saying Marines can't do stupid things, and if they do them, they
Oh
can't be
no.
forgiven. That's
No,
what you're
no,
saying,
I
Mike.
forgive him. Go, I forgive him. Go out and shuck some oysters. I just don't want him as an individual. Now, if you're saying, oh, but if he doesn't win, then you got Donald Trump. That's a different story. But in a sense, is you're not saying that. You're saying he as an individual should be forgiven. And you want me? I'll, I forgive you. I just don't want you to run as Graham. Now, I do, frankly, everything you say is true. I haven't had an LL Bean shirt in a long time. I used to really like them. There's not, look, they're people. They're entitled to it. uh, as I said, I was inordinately in awe of the physical prowess, and in fact, these people were putting their asses out. Well, I was watching the maneuvers in Lejeune quite often because they were always wanting to new stuff, and this going back to the UAVs. The Marines wanted little UAVs so that they could see what's in the future. So I was down there then examining, could they carry these things and all. But we're now saying Plattner, when he was caught, did all of these, mea culpa, fine, good. Go into a monastery if you want to be mea culpa. But my opinion, as is, let's just say, is anybody listening other than you and me, is
Maybe not.
everybody thinks the same as I do. Uh, Including, by the way, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. They believe it.
Everybody in Montgomery County believes the same
No,
as
no,
you.
no.
I mean,
Wait. Does Bernie Sanders live in Montgomery County?
he
Does
probably has a
Elizabeth?
house there. He's got a lot of houses.
No, as a matter of fact, Bernie Sanders' wife is a capitalist, although we don't discuss that. Elizabeth Warren has got a money lending portfolio, but she doesn't have a house here. But again, uh, let's put it this way: Westmore, we both admire. He believes what I'm saying about Plattner. So forget about Montgomery County. Jeffords in New York, who is not Montgomery County, he believes it. Okay? Everybody believes it, except it's more important that we have Donald Trump out. And it could be. I don't know. But they don't say that out loud. They're
I
lying.
would
Not a one of
suggest,
them would pass their lie detector test. You
I would
might,
suggest
they
that your
wouldn't.
crowd, that your friends,
Oh,
and the
no, no,
people
no. Forget about my friends.
now
I
the people you're
understand.
naming may all agree with you. What I'm suggesting is that uh, people in the 17758, 17756,
Oh,
people across the rural areas, the rural folks don't believe what you're saying, and they
oh,
don't
heavens,
believe.
no, come on now. They know that. They're saying it's not that important, but they